Hey, how's it going? This is Miss Allen again. We are in our second video for Unit 2, which is matter, and this particular video is going to be over intensive versus extensive properties. So if you want to turn to the next page in your notes, and please fill out the blanks as we go along. By the end of this video, you need to make sure that you can identify. Notice that the verbs in the EOC standards are always underlined in these videos. Make sure that you can identify intensive versus extensive properties. So how do you do that? How do I identify them? What are they? Intensive properties are properties that do not depend upon the amount of the substance that's present. So, in other words, no matter how much of that substance I have, these properties are not going to change. So, for example, pure water has a density of 1 gram per milliliter if it's measured at STP. Remember STP. And that's going to be true whether I have a drop of water, whether I have a glass of water, a pot of water, or a swimming pool full of water. If it is pure water, at standard temperature and pressure, its density is going to be 1 gram per milliliter. Extensive properties, though, are exactly the opposite. So an extensive property will change with the amount of the substance present. So, in other words, these properties are going to vary with size or amount. So if I have a large amount, I'm going to have a larger number. If I have a small amount, I'm going to have a smaller measured number. Does that make sense? Okay, so what are some examples then? For intensive properties, these things are going to be density, like I just told you in the example. Solubility, that's how easily it dissolves or will it dissolve. Melting point, boiling point. And here's the thing that's great about intensive properties. How many of you watch crime shows like Bones or NCIS? My favorite one's Fringe, which is sort of a crime show, but if you haven't seen it, you should watch it. It's very cool. Anyways, I love these crime shows. And what you're always going to notice is that when these detectives show up on the scene and they find something, they've got to go, well, what is it? Well, here's this substance around this dead body. What is it? Well, the first thing they're going to look at is, what's it look like? What color is it? Is it shiny? Is it fine powder? If it's a fine white powder, what is it? Just because it's a fine white powder doesn't mean that it's drugs, right? It could be anything. So they look at it and then they test it. When they test it, if they match it up to the known thing that they're measuring, so if they know that cocaine is has a melting point of whatever, I don't know what cocaine melts at, and then they test this substance and it doesn't melt at that particular point, then it must not be cocaine. So what I'm getting at is that intensive properties are going to be the properties that you will use in chemistry lab to figure out what a substance is, because you will do, especially in pre-AP, you will do several labs where I don't tell you what it is and your job is to figure it out. So those are the properties that you're going to use. Extensive properties, on the other hand, are not going to help you with that at all, because an extensive property is a measured value. If I've got just a little bit of it, obviously it's going to have a lesser mass or a smaller volume than if I have a lot of it. So that's not going to tell me what the substance is. So just keep in mind that intensive properties are never going to change, and that extensive properties will vary depending upon how much you have. Now you try. For each one of these, you want to know, is it intensive or is it extensive? Okay, how did you do? Remember, you can always go back and rewind, pause, watch it again, check your notes. But if you couldn't figure out one of those properties, please make sure that you ask about it in class tomorrow, okay? That's the end of this one. Short and sweet.